Hi, my name is Desiree Nielsen, and on this episode of Live Kindly with me, I'll be answering all your questions about going vegan if you're also gluten-free. Then we'll make some food together. So if you're on a gluten-free diet for health reasons and you're looking to go plant-based or vegan, know that it's absolutely possible. The key is, as with all things nutrition, focus most often on whole plant foods that are naturally gluten-free, like fruits, vegetables, legumes, gluten-free whole grains, and nuts and seeds. That will ensure you get all the fiber, protein, and minerals you need so you stay nourished and energized. The first thing we should probably talk about is what the heck gluten even is. Gluten is a protein that is naturally occurring in wheat, barley, and rye, and all of the grains and products associated with them. So you're going to find gluten in your everyday sandwich bread. You're also going to find gluten in spelt, which is a relative of wheat. You'll also find gluten in many hyper-processed and packaged products, things like trail mixes where the fruit might have been dusted with flours. So you wouldn't think of it as a food that contains gluten, but it has gluten because of how it's processed or manufactured. So when you are choosing gluten-free foods, you really want to make sure that you look for a gluten-free certification mark on the food to make sure that you're getting a purely gluten-free food. Now I'm going to take you through a day's worth of nutritious, gluten-free, vegan recipes, starting with the strawberry chocolate overnight oats. Now we should probably talk about oats because there's a little bit of confusion around gluten and oats. Oats don't inherently contain gluten. However, in our current food supply, they're cross-contaminated with gluten at multiple points along their life cycle. So you want to make sure that you look for certified gluten-free pure oats. The other thing you need to know about oats, particularly if you're newly diagnosed with celiac disease, is that it's typically not recommended that you introduce even gluten-free oats into your diet until your healing has begun. So usually 6 to 12 months after your celiac diagnosis and your antibodies have come down. But now that we've got our gluten-free oats, let's make a delicious overnight oats. We're going to take a 1/3 cup of gluten-free rolled oats. I'm going to add a little bit of chia seed, 1 tablespoon. Chia seeds are rich in soluble fiber, just like gluten-free oats. A tablespoon of cocoa powder. You can use raw cacao as well if you want. Extra phytochemical power. A 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And we're going to stir up the dry ingredients just to get them well combined. And then we'll add our vanilla and our maple syrup. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. Next, a 1/2 cup of your favorite non-dairy milk, make sure it's gluten-free, is stir, and then place it in the fridge covered overnight. The next morning you want to check the texture. If you want it a little bit looser, you can add extra plant-based milk, and then you're going to top it and maybe even stir in extra strawberries. For lunch, we're gonna make a crunchy, tangy, refreshing soba noodle salad. Soba noodles are a traditional buckwheat noodle from Japan. Now, buckwheat sounds like wheat, but in fact, it's botanically a seed, not related to wheat at all, and completely gluten-free. However, most conventional soba noodles actually add a bit of wheat flour, so soba is not a gluten-free food on its own. You need to look for 100% pure buckwheat soba noodles, preferably with the gluten-free mark to ensure you're getting a safe soba noodle salad. We'll start by making the dressing. Let's start with 3 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, a nice nutty flavor, 2 tablespoons of gluten-free soy sauce or tamari, a tablespoon of maple syrup for a little bit of sweetness, and then we're gonna add some heat. We are going to grate a clove of garlic, which we're just going to use a micro grater. This helps it to get really, really fine so you don't have big chunks of garlic. And then some ginger as well. Ginger is great for digestive health. It's really soothing to an irritated tummy. All right, I'm gonna stir it up, and if you like it spicy, you can always add a little bit of hot sauce, or as much as you dare. Now that we've got our dressing, let's put the salad together. We're gonna add our soba noodles, some crunchy purple cabbage, some snap peas. I just cut them on the diagonal. You can cut them however you like. Cilantro. Cilantro is really nutritious and I absolutely love the flavor. It's also a really inexpensive way to get more greens into your diet, but if you absolutely do not love it, you can always substitute some finely shredded kale or even some Italian flat leaf parsley. And then some salted peanuts for some extra crunch. Now for a little bit of dressing. And there you have it, a light, refreshing, and crunchy soba noodle salad. You might have read on the internet that gluten is bad for everyone, but that is 100% a myth and definitely not the case. If you have celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease that is triggered by the presence of gluten in the gut, or you have non-celiac gluten intolerance, which shares some of the same symptoms, but without the autoimmune response, then you're definitely going to want to be strictly gluten-free. Instead of just removing the gluten-containing foods from your diet, you want to swap in healthful, wholesome, gluten-free alternatives. For example, millet. Millet is one of my favorite grains. It has a very couscous-like texture, so it's great if you're making a tabbouleh, which would typically contain wheat and gluten. You can use quinoa, you can use brown rice or black rice for an extra dose of antioxidants, and using these gluten-free natural whole grains will ensure you get more fiber as well as more minerals into your diet. And then from a protein standpoint, you'll want to focus more on whole legumes such as chickpeas, lentils, and black beans, as well as tofu and tempeh, which are typically naturally gluten-free. Our final recipe is one of my family's favorites, a creamy, rich chickpea coconut curry. It's great because it comes together really quickly on a weeknight and it contains ingredients you probably already have in your pantry. So we're going to cook everything over medium heat in a really large and deep skillet. If you don't have a skillet like this, you can absolutely use a big pasta pot. You just want to make sure you have enough depth so it's not spilling over the edge. I'm going to put in a nice little drizzle of avocado oil. You could use coconut oil as well. And then we're going to cook down our aromatics. So we have some fresh turmeric, ginger, garlic, onions, and then I've finely chopped up the broccoli stems. A lot of people throw these out, but this is great food. And when you cook it in at the beginning, it really helps to soften down and you're gonna love it. You're not gonna notice it at all. We are going to cook this, stirring occasionally until the onions are soft and glossy. It's gonna take about 5 to 7 minutes. The onions are looking pretty good. You'll notice that everything's got a bit of a golden hue from the turmeric. So we're ready to add our broccoli florets. Give them a little bit of a stir, about 3 minutes until the broccoli is looking bright green. Now that we've got our broccoli started, we're gonna add some chickpeas, 2 cans of chickpeas, really well rinsed and drained. And we're gonna add a cup of water, 2 cans of full fat coconut milk. You could also do light coconut milk if you want something a little bit lighter. And then our spices, we're using turmeric, curry powder, cumin, and a little bit of garam masala. And then finally, a teaspoon and a quarter of salt. Okay, the curry is looking and smelling so good, so rich, so creamy. We're just gonna finish it with a little bit of freshly squeezed lime juice. Brighten up the flavor a bit. Now let's plate. You can serve this with some lime wedges on the side. If you love cilantro, more cilantro is fantastic too. It's a really hearty, healthy meal that's gonna help you feel really good. This is Desiree for Live Kindly. Thank you for watching. Are you gluten sensitive? Have no fear. There are so many gluten-free, plant-based foods for you to choose from. Which one of these dishes are you gonna make first? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.